Welcome back to Valley Boys TCG. I'm CK, and today we've got some gameplay of Machinedramon versus Aegisdramon, Battle of the Big Mechas. So my opponent is going to be playing Machinedramon here on the left. Starts off with a Doraemon, goes into a Ludamon, which is a very nice tech that I really grew to love in this matchup, and then into the classic Aegisdramon. On the right, we have our Bukamon to Gomamon, and then we drop a Davis to pick up. Looks like we're going with the Mecha-Beasts. Guessing we have a Plesio in hand, because Plesio is the one we really want there. Then they Digivolve into the Gigadramon, which is a great card to put some aggro in this Machinedramon deck. Allows you to come up next turn, swing with jamming, then Evo, and restand with the Reboot Inherited. Now on the right side, that Gomamon went into a Cordramon and into the new Waru Seedramon, which then lets us play out the Gomamon, draw 2, and then gain a memory from Bukamon to try to keep them at only 2 memory. They swing in with jamming, hit a Aegisdramon, it doesn't matter because of course they have jamming, and then they go into the new BT11 Machinedramon, which has the search. Look like we don't see an analog man yet, but they do get it to the Chaosdramon, and then reboot with that new inherited from that Gigadramon. So good for this deck. And I really like my opponent's deck list. I have a Machinedramon with red based, so I was really admiring his black base build. I really like that Ludamon tech, because as long as there's a red Digimon, it gives it blocker, and if you go into the Chaosdramon that he just drew, Ludamon would give itself blocker. So here on the right, we see the Crabmon in Raising, and we go to a Tobimon, and then to the Plesio, which will let us play out the Gomamon. We have the Inherited of Waru and the Inherited of Buka to gain a memory, so 2 memory back, making that a 1-cost Evo, and because we used 1 for the Tobiomon, we're able to bring out the Gomamon to draw 2 more cards. So that Gomamon is really putting in work to give us a lot of card draw advantage. Now since the Tobio was the Gomamon that was already on the field, it is able to swing, just hits a black memory boost, so survives to the turn. So we go ahead and go in with Plesio, thinking about it, decide to go ahead and swing in, hit a Chaos, not enough DP on Plesio's end, so we lose Plesio, and then just go into the Aegisdramon in Raising to get ready to build another stack. Now Machinedramon has the Dorumon, and we see them go into the Chaos for 1 here. Now we're going to get a really big boy stack here. He's going to be able to add a lot of pieces underneath, and that Mecha-Dramon deletes something with a 3-cost, and unfortunately that Tobiomon and Gomamon are both easy targets. So he can swing into security here, use the effect, and decides to pop the Tobiomon because it is also 3 costs like we just said, and swing for 2 checks. No worries there. And he's a pretty big boy with that Metal Greymon inherited, probably puts him at about 15k. Gets another Guardio and Raising, and then decides to pass turn, has Reboot and Blocker. And now we're going to have a pretty big problem and try to come around him. And with that Analog Man on board, that also gives him a redirect. So we're really going to have to be careful on how we want to move about this. We're just discussing all the different effects because it is a pretty big stack. Machinedramon decks tend to be pretty crazy on the amount of effects they can stack underneath. We go into the Waru Seedramon to play out the Crabmon, which will give jamming, which doesn't really make an effect here. We're probably not going to swing in, but we're going to swipe in the Waru Seedramon to get the effect with the Bukamon, so we can gain some memory and try to extend our plays here, see what we can do to come out of this. It looks like the plan is to go into Plesio to play out the Aegisdramon, which will then let us give something blocker and then gain the memory from this Waru Seedramon. A lot of great ways to gain memory, and we see we tuck the Metal Seedramon so that we can go into the Aegisdramon, play out that Metal Seedramon to use Plesio's inherited effect to attempt to bounce or return the Chaosdramon to hand. Now, of course, Chaosdramon has plenty of protection, so it's just going to have to lose some of its sources underneath, but that's what we want to do, try to get rid of as much of its protection as we can. He elects to get rid of the DP boost and the security plus, slowing down some of his aggression. Moves up the Aegisdramon, uses the Analog Man inherited to toss a Metal-Greymon to gain and draw. Now it looks like he's going to go ahead and go in with the Chaos. You see him using the Aegisdramon inherited effect here to discard and draw. Hits a nice big Aegisdramon in security, trashing more of his sources, so that's a good sign for us for right now. We do have a pretty wide board, so we can try to do some damage next turn. And we see him go into the Metal Tyrannomon. Now that is such a great card to come out of this set because it adds so much to this deck in being able to just trash from security. And he uses this effect to suspend our blocker. So since we didn't block the first attack, now we do not have a blocker, and it gives him ability to go ahead and go in. Goes into another Machinedramon here. Now we don't see the Analog Man, but he does get a second Metal Tyrannomon underneath. So that's going to be really big and a really scary card to come around because we're going to have to trash a lot of our security if that Digimon blocks or redirects. And we're down one attacker with a Aegisdramon stuck suspended due to that Metal Tyrannomon effect. And he has at least one redirect, and I want to say that he also has blocker inherited, although I'm not seeing blocker inherited in this stack. And the Chaos is still suspended, so he should have 3 hits on security. He can block 1, and then we should still have 3 hits on security. I think that's what we're discussing there, trying to figure out how many attacks can he block or how many attacks can he redirect at this point. So we go ahead and swing in with the Aegis. Still toying with the idea. Swing with the Aegis over the Chaos because it can no longer protect itself. The protection is gone. Digivolving here and raising. I'm not sure why we didn't go in. I feel like there was enough attacks to survive the turn. And then we go into another Aegis here to play out the Metal Seedramon, use the effect of Plesio to bounce the Machinedramon back to hand. Huge removal there. So yeah, we didn't go for a game, but we went for a big control where we were able to actually clear a Machinedramon and a Chaos, and now we have a solid board state to try to come back for game next turn. So yeah, that was a very creative play to get around a very tough matchup against Machinedramon. Didn't think we were going to pull it off, and then he just drops the Aegisdramon. When he plays out a Aegisdramon, I get to play something out, which will let me play out the Waru. Waru will let me play out the Goma to draw, and now our board is just ridiculous with, what is that, 8 attackers now? 8 attackers next turn? 1, 2, 9 attackers. 9 attackers on board coming in this next turn. So this is where the flood really comes out. Seedramon clears, Aegis clears. We go ahead and Waru, and then Aegis. We had all the... There was no point in the blocking. He knew it was pretty much over. So here we go on to game 2. And we see the Metal Bird into the Aegisdramon, solid start, classic Machinedramon start. And on our side, we see the Gomamon to Tobiomon and to a Davis. Good start for Aegisdramon as well. Both of us are having pretty good starting hands to go in. And I make a mistake there. I accidentally revealed 4 instead of 3. I was thinking Blue Memory Boost instead of Davis. So I told my opponent I'm just going to put the last card at the bottom. He said it's fine because you're going to draw right now anyway. So he lets me just put the card back to the top. We both know what my next draw is going to be, and we leave it as is. So he goes into a Mecha-Dramon. And then decides just to pass turn. I guess he doesn't have the right follow-up that he wants. So we go ahead and just drop the Aegisdramon since we know he's not doing too much yet. We probably are missing our level 5 piece at this point. So he swings in with Mecha-Dramon, gets to do his effect. And here we hit a yeah, that is a new option, Maelstrom, that came out in this set. Nothing to play out because I have nothing with sources underneath, so unfortunately it's just a wasted option. And here he goes into the Machinedramon, which grabs him what he needs. He gets to place a card underneath, and he gets to get the Analog Man to hand. So now he's looking pretty good. He's getting his pieces. He already has a black memory boost on board, and things are not looking good right now for the Aegisdramon side. So we go ahead and swing in with Core, and then drop a blue memory boost because I'm assuming we really need this level 5. And it looks like we decided to go with the Aegisdramon. I'm kind of torn with this deck, whether I like the Mecha-Beasts or Aegisdramon more. And Aegisdramon does come in clutch in the fact that you don't have to attack. So in instances like this where you're going against a very defensive deck or something with a lot of blockers that can really block almost anything, Aegisdramon is the better card to have at the level 5 slot in this matchup. And then we just dropped the Madoki to block them from using their black memory boost. So you see him build another Guardramon in the back and deciding what he wants to do. I think he's really deciding whether to go for security or go ahead and hit my Cordramon, because you don't want to let Aegisdramon go too wide on you because that's how you get overwhelmed. And he was about to do Ultimate Connection, and then he realized he couldn't gain the memory off of it, so he uses the Metal Greymon Inherit to swing over Madoki and then just drop the Analog Man, and we'll probably use the boost and Ultimate Connection next turn. So we bring our Digimon out, go into the Woru, gain a memory back from Buka for playing out the Goma. Goma gets us 2 draws, but now that he has that Analog Man, he does have 1 redirect. So we go ahead and swing in Cordramon. Cordramon dies, we pop the boost and a Hammer Spark so that we can go into Plesio, play out the Toby to gain a memory from the Aegisdramon inherited now. And then we tuck under a Metal Seedramon, and it looks like we don't have the Aegisdramon to do the play from the last game. We have 2 Tobys on board now. Right now, a Plesio or a Aegisdramon would be clutch with Plesio's inherited, so we can play out the Metal Seedramon and try to bounce. But it looks like we don't have it. And then we just drop a Sora and Joe, another good card to have in this matchup because you can start stripping all those bonuses that Machinedramon gives itself. And so, trying to play it slow here. I know he can build up, but I don't have what I need to really go in for the kill. Here, thinking it over, he gets into another of the Mecha-Dramon, which will pop my Tobyomon with the source, and that is going to be a problem having that Mecha-Dramon on board as an inherited. And then he decides to swing into my Plesio now with Machinedramon, and then goes into another Machinedramon on the other side, and we are not looking good now. Had we had the Aegisdramon the turn before, we probably would have been able to do something a little more. But now we're not looking good. He gets to pop the Tobyomon with the inherited from Mecha-Dramon, and here, I mean, it is just a complete momentum shift, and ends his turn by playing another Analog Man. So now he's got 2 redirects. He's got his big boys out. I believe he's got Blocker inherited somewhere. Yeah, I think the one with Reboot has the Ludomon. So if he goes to Chaos, it would be a Blocker. And all we can do is drop a Cordramon and try to draw some more pieces, but it's not looking good for Aegisdramon now. We had an amazing swarm that game 1, but right now it is not working out for us. He swings, hits a Plesio in security, goes ahead and swings in again, hits our Lobomon, which would have been nice to have here in hand, and then goes into the Chaos to add some more to his stack to make this Chaos very sticky to the board. It's going to be really hard to remove this Chaos. You see that he's put that Metal Tyrannomon in the bottom, and then goes into another Chaos. And he's adding Reboot to this one. So now we're going to have Rebooters, Blockers, Redirects, I essentially need the board state I had at the end of the last game with 9 attackers in order to try to overcome this really, really big defensive board. So go into Waru, play out the Goma to draw 2. At this point, I'm drawing like crazy. I'm probably gonna, probably at risk of decking myself out if this game goes too much longer. We decide to Hammer Spark, try to build up again. So we swing at the Aegisdramon, knowing he's going to block it, but we can use the Sorenjo to strip the bottom 2 sources so we can get rid of that Metal Tyrannomon inherited at the very least. And he uses a redirect. Go into Plesio here, use it to play out the Aegisdra, which will give blocker to Aegisdra itself, gain a memory from the Buka, or from the Waru I should say. We'll tuck in the Metal Seedramon. Again, we're loading up to try to do the same bounce play, but we know that he's got enough sources to protect himself. So really, it's just too late now. We finally drew into the Aegisdramon, but had we had it a turn sooner, we would have been able to bounce and slowed his game down. But he just goes in, takes the game, and here we are on to game 3. And it looks like we're starting game 3 with Aegisdramon. We see the Gomamon into the Aegisdramon over the Bukamon, so good start. We see a Ludomon and then already the Analog Man on the left. Here comes the Aegisdramon, Hammer Spark up so that we can go into the Waru Seedramon, play out the Goma, gain the memory from Buka, draw 2 from Goma, and now we'll go ahead and swing in. Waru dies, but we got some decent resources out of him. And we just drop a Davis. Now in this instance, I should probably grab the Crabmon because I think Crabmon's the better one to build off of, but looks like we're going for the Gomamon here. Pass and turn, our opponent decides to go ahead, promotes up the Ludomon. Ludomon's such a great tech for this deck. I really admire his build here. Drops the Haguru to get some more draws in. He did use the Analog Man effect at the beginning of turn, and we see a Aegisdramon, and then into the Mecha-Dramon, which will pop the Gomamon. And now, all of a sudden, he's got a good shift in momentum. Looks like we had a Crabmon in hand already. We're building Crabmon and Aegisdramon. That is a solid stack to start off with. And if we're not worried about a blocker next turn, we should go into the Mega Seedramon. There it is. And now his turn, he does his Analog Man effects. We see another Ludomon in Raising. Hagurumon goes in, checks the Aegisdramon in security. And he decides to go in with the Mecha-Dramon, use the effect, just hits a Gomamon, and then goes into a Aegisdramon there. And then here we see the memory boost. I'm assuming he's going to get, yep, the Machinedramon right there. And so now we really got to do something here before he can build up into that Machinedramon, so we got to put some pressure. We swing in, plays out the Crabmon to give ourselves jamming, and now we can tuck another card underneath. We'll gain 1 memory from Bukamon for that. We'll tuck the Gomamon underneath, and it's fine because we have jamming. Go into the Plesio, which will let us play out the Aegisdramon, which will unsuspend the Plesiomon and give blocker to Aegisdramon itself. I think that's the safer one because we don't want to use our Plesio yet. And here we can go ahead and try to swing over his suspended Digimon. I think that would be the better play here. And since we did tuck in a Gomamon, the inherited from Mega Seedramon will let us get another body on board to go wide here. And we're still finishing resolving our effects here to tuck underneath. So here we go. We swing over the suspended. We play out the Gomamon to draw 2. And now we have a pretty nice board state here. And then we just drop a Madoki so that he cannot use the effect of the memory boost. So using the analog effect, he just has the Aegisdramon now, but that Aegisdramon can do a lot of things. He's checking what he has in the trash to see what he can tuck, depending on what he wants to use here. Now, but even if he drops a Machinedramon from EX1 here, he won't gain the memory back because of the Madoki. So he decides to go to attack of the mobile Digimon. drops that Machinedramon here to get a nice big stack Machinedramon. And yeah, those inherited he's stacking underneath are perfect for what he's going to do right now, because he's going to be able to swing over my Plesio, use the Mecha-Dramon effect to pop the Modoki, and use the Metal Mama effect to pop my blocker so that I cannot block this Plesio deletion. And then he burns the top of my security. So now I just have 2 rookies on board. He's got Reboot there, he's got a Redirect, and he's got a blocker in Aegisdramon. So now I went from having a very positive state to a very unfortunate situation here. So we just go the Aegisdramon out on the board. We drop another Sora and Joe, so hopefully we can start stripping some of his sources. We go into the Mega Seedramon so you can swing, play out the Crabmon to give jamming to, I believe, Gomamon actually, because we're anticipating him blocking this or redirecting this. Or maybe we do keep the jamming on Mega Seedramon. Yeah, there's the redirect. But at least we get to strip some of his sources. And then we just Evo into a Aegisdramon in Raising. It does not look good now. The tide has definitely shifted in his favor, being able to remove 3 bodies at once. Machinedramon is such a good deck. It is very powerful when it gets going. Aegisdramon needs to really ramp up and flood the board. And here we see the Chaosdramon, which is going to let him get sources again, get that Mecha-Dramon effect back. And really, he could have gone for game here. I think he swung into my Digimon there when he could have swung at security, used both of his deletion effects to wipe my board. Instead, he swung at 1 and used only 1 of the deletion. And here I'm explaining, if he had a level 5 in hand, that was the game, because he just had a swing at security. He would have popped 2, burned 1, cleared the security, and then right here gone into a level 5 and swung for game. But unfortunately, he swung over because he forgot he had 2 deletion effects in his stack. But here we go. He swings at security, clears my last security, and this will pretty much seal the game, because I essentially have to come out, set up a blocker, and then we'll set up 2 blockers, which is not going to happen here. Gets his search going, has his reboot, and yeah, we move out. Go into the Waru to play out the Crab to give himself jamming, gain 1. Tuck the Aegisdra, which will essentially net us 1 blocker if we can get the Aegisdramon. If we have a Plesio here in hand, which it looks like we do, we can go into Plesio to play out 1 Aegisdra, which gives ourselves 1 blocker, but he does have at least 2 attacks coming next turn with that Numamon and Raising. So here we go. Play out the Aegisdra, put blocker, but that Mamamon's just going to pop it anyway. So really, this game's over. We're just kind of playing it out just to play it out. But really, really good matchup, really solid matchup, a lot of fun. Machinedramon is a very strong deck. Aegisdramon, it held on its own for pretty well. It's a pretty good matchup. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching the video. Hope you all enjoyed it. See you in the next one.